In today's video, we're going to be installing Void Linux. We're going to use LUKS encryption as part of our setup. We're also going to install Plymouth, and then we'll do auto login if needed, meaning that in those steps you don't have to continue with me. You're more than welcome to go ahead and kind of exit at that point. Now that we are here, what we're going to do is we'll just go ahead and log in. So root void Linux, hit enter. We're going to do LSBLK to see what we're working with. I'm going to work with NVMe 0 and 1. So let's go ahead and wipe it first. So wipe fs-a dev NVMe 0 and 1. Ensure you enter the partition you are working with. Once you're done, you're going to type in cf disk space dev NVMe 0 and 1. And then hit enter, select GPT, and then the first partition we're going to create is going to be 1 gig. This is our boot partition and our EFI partition. So go to type and then go all the way up to EFI systems, and then go down here. We're going to hit enter twice so we could grab all that's remaining. And once you're done, as long as you have EFI system and Linux system, you're going to go ahead, hit enter on right, type in yes, and then enter again, and then you could go ahead and quit. I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen. And what we're going to do now, let me go ahead and zoom in for you guys, is we're going to switch over to bash mode. So bin bash, and this just allows me for auto completion and to be able to look at my history. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and begin to format, encrypt, mount, format, mount. Okay, I know it sounds crazy, but just go with me. All right, here we go. First partition, mkfs for make file system .vfat -f32, so it could be fat32 -n to give it a name, call it boot, dev NVMe 0 and 1 p1. If you're using SD as your driver, maybe like SDA1, SDAB1. If you're doing virtual, it'll be VDA1. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead and hit enter, and then once that's done, we want to now encrypt our second partition. So to do that, we're gonna do crypt setup, and then we're gonna do LUKS format. And if you want to do of type LUKS1, you do --type LUKS1 and so forth. But I'm just going to use the default, so I'm not going to include that. So LUKS format, and for the record, all the other steps remain the same. And /dev. So we need to tell it what partition we want to format. So NVMe 0 and 1 P2. And then go ahead and hit enter. And here's what I tell you to overwrite. Make sure that you type in yes in all capital letters. So yes. And then enter a password for your partition. And just one little hint on passwords, make sure that this is a recommendation, that your encrypted password, your root password, and your user password are all different passwords. But as always, this is Linux. Do whatever makes you the happiest. That's the beauty of Linux. And what I'm telling you is just a recommendation. So now that we've gone ahead and encrypted, we need to unencrypt it so we could access this partition. So to do that, we're going to do crypt setup again, and then we're going to do LUKS open, and then make sure those are capitals there, so capital O, and then tell it which drive we need to open, so N0 and 1 P2. And then what we want to do is give it an alias. We could call this whatever we want to call this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this my crypt root, and then go ahead and hit enter. Enter the password to your encrypted partition. And now if I do an LSBLK, you see that we have the crypt root. Depending on what your alias is, it will show up as that sort of subpartition. Now we want to begin to format this into Btrfs, and then we're going to go ahead and mount it. So mkfs for make file system .btrfs-l for label, and we'll call this void space, and then tell it the partition. Now here's what's interesting is, let me go ahead and back this out real quick. You don't have to do this unless you want to see. Hope you're just waiting for me. But if you do an ls dev mapper, you'll see all the partitions that are now mapped. And so what crypt does, or crypt setup, is that when you unencrypt it, it maps it to whatever alias you gave it. In this case, it's crypt root. And so that's the partition that we're going to work with. So mkfs.btrfs-l, and then we're going to do label for this. It's going to be void dev and dev mapper, and then crypt root. And then we want to give it, actually, you know what, I just noticed this. Okay. And so once you have this, you're going to go ahead and hit enter. Let me back out here a little bit because now we're here. And then once we are done with this, what we want to do next is begin to create our Btrfs subvolumes. So to do this, you need to mount the partition first. So mount dev mapper crypt setup, and we want to mount that over at /mount Btrfs su for subvolume, cr for create, and in use create 2 subvolumes. You could create all the subvolumes you want. I'm only going to do 2 for this setup, so we're going to do /mount /add root, and then I'm going to hit up, erase root, and replace that with home, and then hit enter. So those are the 2 partitions that I'm going to go with. Once you're done with the partitions, you do mount, and we're going to remount these, but now with our subvolume mounted points. So to do this, we're going to do mount -O for options, subvol equals, first one is at root. And some of the options that I like to use for Btrfs are no atime, discard equals async, and these 2 allow us to have the kind of good speed on our writing. And then we're going to do space underscore cache equals v2, so that optimizes our cache. And then we're going to do compress equals CSTD for Z standard, and then :1. This gives us the least amount of compression, still good enough, but also gives us the best performance. If you want more compression, you could go 2 or even 3. Once you do this, we're going to tell it which partition this is. So this is /dev mapper crypt setup, crypt root. And then we want to tell it where we want to mount this, and this should be at our mount folder. So /mnt, hit enter. We're going to go ahead and hit up, Control A, go to your right, change root for home, Control E, at /home space --mkdir to make the directory. And now we have both our root and our home mounted. And so the last thing we want to do is mount our boot partition. So to do that, it's going to be mount /dev NVMe 0 and 1p1. And we want to do that at mount boot space --mkdir. So you can make the directory, hit enter. And now we're ready to begin to install our base system. The way I like to do this, the book kind of recommends this, or the website recommends this, is you want to copy the repo keys. So to do this, we need to make a directory first. So we're going to do mkdir-p, so I can make all the directories that don't exist. And we're going to do /mount var /db /xbps /keys, hit enter. And now we want to copy almost from the same directory, but from our live boot. So /var /db /xbps /keys, and then do star. So you can grab the 2 keys that are here, and we're going to copy them over to the new directory that we just made. And once, let's see here. Once we are done, you hit enter. Now we can begin the installation process for the bootstrapping. So to do that is xbps-install, and then we're going to do -s, so it could sync our metadata, -R, so we could tell it where our repo's at, and that's going to be over at repo-default.void linux.org/current. Don't forget the HTTPS. And then we're going to do a -r to tell it where our root's at, and that's at /mount. And then we want to install 2 core packages here, base system, that's the base system. And we also need crypt setup. Those 2 are extremely critical, especially crypt setup, if you're going to be doing any of the LUKS encryption. I'm going to use Limina as my bootloader, because that's just my favorite bootloader, because I could theme it and so forth. And then a couple packages that I'm going to install that are not quite required, but I'm going to do newvim. And then I'm also going to do Linux mainline, so I could go ahead and grab the latest kernel, which is 7.0, hit enter. So I noticed that I had a typo. I put Linus instead of Linux. So make sure you do that and then hit enter. This will tell you to install about a gig's worth of stuff. Go ahead, hit yes. Let this go ahead and install. Once it's done installing, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and complete all the post installation steps that are required as part of setting up your Void Linux setup here. 2 minutes, depending on your speed, it may take you about the same, faster or slower. But let's go ahead and complete our process. So what we need to do now is create our FS tab or our FS table, so it knows how to mount our system. So to do that, we're going to do xgen fs tab -u for UUID. We do /mount, so tell it where our root's at, and we're going to use greater than, so it could write to a file, and then we're going to do /mnt Etsy, fs tab, hit enter. Once we're done, we need to change root, so xch root /mount /bin bash, because we want to be in bash mode when we're in root. Hit enter. First things first is we're going to create our users. Then we're going to go ahead and modify some settings, and then we'll do a couple other things. So let's begin with our users. So we're going to type in pass wd for password. This is for a root. Enter a strong and unique password for your root. Then we're going to do user add the username that you want. I'm using JTech. We're going to do user mod-a capital G. I like to do network, and I like, wheel, that gives us sudo access. And then I'm going to do network, hit enter. Sorry, I forgot to add my username. So make sure you add your username and then hit enter. And then once we are here, we want to add the password for JTech. So to do that is password again, but this time we include the username, which is JTech. Add a strong and unique password, hopefully not the same as your root user. And then once you have this, we're done with our user setup. Now we want to do our machine name, our locale, and our time. So let's start off by doing machine name. So we're going to do echo. I'm going to call this Latty because this is a Dell Latitude. So this is the name of this machine. We'll do a greater than, and then etc, and then host name. Choose the name that you prefer. And then we want to do now our time. And so to do that, we're going to do a symlink. So ln-sf. And then we're going to go to USR, share, zone info. And if I hit tab twice, you see all the different zones that are here. Choose the one that you are located. So for me, it's America, and then I'm in the Denver zone. And then once you're here, you want to link this over to Etsy local time, and then hit enter. And then we want to do a echo, and we want to tell our hardware clock, so which to use, either UTC or local time. And so we're going to do local time, and we're going to send this over to Etsy, and then type in hardware, or HW for hardware, and then clock, hit enter. And now if you do date, you should have the appropriate time of your area. Once you're done with this, what we're going to do is we want to do our locale. So we're going to do 2 more echoes. So we're going to do echo, and then single quotes, key map equals. And then in my case, we're going to use double quotes. We're going to use US, since I'm in the US, then another double quotes and single quotes. And we're sending that over to Etsy, rc.conf, hit enter. Now that you have this, we want to now do our locale. So to do this is we're going to do echo. And in my case, I'm on English US.utf-8 space UTF-8, and then quotes. If you do not know your locale, or you don't know it exactly, the file I'm about to send this to, you could just edit that file, find your location, and uncomment that. So what I'm gonna do is a greater than, and then the file that you should be editing if you need to is gonna be Etsy, default, and then it's libc locales, and then go ahead and hit enter. And now that I have this, what I want to do is I want to tell XBPS to use that. So XBPS reconfigure -f glibc-locales, hit enter. And now XBPS, anytime it needs to use glibc, will always use the proper locale. And now that this is all done, what we want to do is now do our kind of final setups. So to do this, we need to configure our limina config. So let's go switch over to our boot directory. In here, you're going to have a couple files, and we're going to use these files, at least the name of them. And we need to set up a limina config, and then we need to copy over our EFI boot file. So let's create a directory, mkdir-p, and then we're going to do all caps FE/all caps boot, hit enter, CP to copy from USR, and then share, and then we're going to do limina. And then in here, we're going to do all caps boot. And if I hit tab twice here for tab completion, you'll see that I have a couple different boot files for long arch, for arch32, arch64, and even REST-V. I care about the x64 because that's what I'm working with. So I'll do X and then tab complete. And we want to copy this over to that directory created. So all caps FE, all caps boot, hit enter. Now we want to create a limina config file, and we want a couple of information. One, we need to tell it where our inner RAM and our kernel's at, and so we need 4 of these files, and then we also need the UUID for our second partition. So this is how I configure my limina config. what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and do ls, so we could get the list of all these files, and we're gonna do and then greater than, and then all caps FE, all caps boot, and then limina.conf, limine. I've heard this called so many things. To me, this is limina. And then once you do this, you're gonna go ahead and hit enter. And now we need to grab the UUID of our second partition. So we're gonna do block ID -s to show, UUID -o for value. And we want the actual partition, not the mapper. So we'll do dev NVMe 0N1P2. And if I hit enter, that shows me that UUID. So that's what we want. And we wanna add that to that same config file. So we don't want it to erase everything there. We're gonna use 2 greater than. So this is appends the file. And then FE boot limina.conf, hit enter. And let's go ahead and edit this file now. So nvim FE boot and then limina.conf. And then in here, we have all the files that we need, plus a couple extra. We don't need the first 3, so 3DD, and then Shift O, so it can make a line above. And then in here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do timeout, colon, and I'm gonna use 3, hit 2 enter, so I could give myself space. We're gonna do enter the void. And the first kernel, I want the latest on top, so 0.0.0. And then once I have this, we're gonna do new line of 4 spaces, type in protocol, and then Linux, hit enter. And then we're gonna do kernel path, so we wanna tell it where our kernel's at, colon, boot, parentheses, colon, slash. And because this is working with 7, we want this VM Linus here. And we're gonna grab this and paste it here. Now we want our init RAM. So to do that, we need to say this is a module. So module underscore path, colon, and then boot. And then we're gonna grab the init RAM for this 7 and then hit paste it here. And then go ahead and make a new line. This is where it's gonna get tricky. And this is where it's required when you're working with LUKS. So here is, we're gonna type in command line, colon, and then we need to tell it where our root's at. And our root, we're gonna tell it that is over at dev mapper. We're not gonna type in encrypt setup because we're not gonna be naming our specific map drive all the time. Instead is we're gonna let LUKS name it for us. And so the way it names it is gonna be LUKS dash and then the UUID. So we wanna go down here and grab this UUID and then go ahead and paste it, do space. And now we wanna do an rd.lux.uuid equals, so we wanna tell it which drive to always unencrypt, which is this one here. And once we have that, we wanna add a couple different commands. So we need to tell it, since we're using Btrfs, we need to tell it where our sub volume's at. And so to do that, we do root flags equals subvol equals, and then at root. And then we want to tell it to read write. And we're going to use Plymouth. So because of that, we want to do quiet and then splash and then log level equals 3. Once we're done with that, we are done with our command lines. And all we need to do now is set up our other kernel. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab these lines, so 5DD, and then paste it again, and then change this here to 6.12.81. And then there's 2 ways to do this. I could just go ahead and grab this here and replace it with these 2 guys here. Or you could just go in there and just change the specific values that need to be replaced. And once we're done with that, let's go ahead and clean this out. And now we are done. So we're gonna want Plymouth, but I've always had trouble doing this when we are in Chroot. So we're gonna do it on our next boot. So when this is done, we could go ahead and exit. And then we exit again. And then we're gonna do umount-lr/mnt, hit enter. And then once this is done, go ahead and reboot. And then once it's done rebooting, we'll do a couple more final steps. At our Limina screen, and we have 2 entries. Let's go ahead and enter 7.0.0. And I'm gonna show you guys why I like to do Plymouth. This is what it'll look like to unencrypt. This is basic. Hey, if you want this, you're more than happy to go with this. But let me go ahead and unlock it so we could begin our setup here. And I forgot to do one thing, and I always forget this most critical step. Let's go ahead and log in with our user. And then we're gonna switch over to our root user, so SU. and then enter the password for our root user. And we're gonna edit nvim, so etsy, sudoers for sudoers. We're gonna go to this line that says will all equals all equals all, and go ahead and do GCC if you're on NeoVim. And then once you've uncommented the line, go ahead and save. This will tell you read only, so don't forget your bang at the end. Let's go ahead and clear this. And now we have sudo access for JTEX, so we'll do exit. And now if I do a sudo, it's gonna work. So I forgot to do our DHCPCD. So sudo, and then etsy sv dhcpcd, and we wanna link this. So I forgot to do that. So ln-sf. And we want to link this over to var service. That's for sim linking. Hit enter. And now that we have this, and we do IPA, we should start seeing our IP here. Give it a little bit and it'll probably pick up sooner or later. As you can see, now I have this. To test it out, you could just do a ping to google.com. And as long as that looks good, we are good to continue. Let me clear my screen. So now we could go ahead and do our XBPS install Plymouth. Hit enter. It's going to tell us all the different dependencies. Hit yes and let this install. I'm gonna go ahead and let this finish, and then once it's done, we'll go ahead and make some configuration changes. All right, this is done installing. So what we're gonna do is clear screen, and then we're gonna edit a file. So we're gonna do nvim, sorry, let's do sudo nvim, and it's gonna be over at etsy cut-conf-d, and we don't have the file here, but we're gonna call this plymouth.conf. Hit enter, and in here, what we're gonna enter is going to be add underscore drag cut modules, and then we're gonna do plus equals, and then inside of quotes, we're gonna do space add underscore drag cut modules, and then we're gonna do plus equals, and then inside of quotes, we're gonna do space Plymouth space and quotes. Save this. Make sure that when you save it, all right, once it's saved, let me go ahead and clear my screen again. So now what this is gonna do is that the next time we do a reconfigure of our entire init RAM, it's gonna go ahead and update it with the Plymouth module. Now, the next thing we wanna do is when we reboot, what's gonna happen is that the Plymouth is gonna stay running because it doesn't know to quit. So we want to make sure that we tell it where to quit. So if we do which Plymouth, it's going to tell us where that file's at. So this is user bin Plymouth. And so what we're going to edit that file, and it's going to be nvim to sudo nvim etsy, and then rc.local, and then hit enter. And in here, we're going to add a new line. Go ahead and clear out the comment. And what we're going to do is we're going to say user or usr bin Plymouth. And then we're gonna say quit, so it knows to quit. Save this, and once we're done saving it, you could go ahead and clear screen again. And once we're done there, if you wanna do auto login, you don't have to do this step unless you want auto login. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do sudo nvim etsy sv, and then we're gonna do httty1, and in here, we should have all these files. We wanna go into the conf file. And in this line where it says getty args and it says no clear, we're gonna do here is -- auto login space and then the username. Keep the no clear there. And once you're done, let's go ahead and exit and save this, and then do another clear. And at this point, we are almost done. What I wanna do is I wanna add a Plymouth theme. So to do this, you do Plymouth, and then you do set default theme, and you're gonna do -- cycle listed, and you have a couple different ones here. You have BGRT, details, and so forth. The one that I personally like to use is Glow. For the defaults, there's some you could download, but let's go with Glow. To select that specific theme, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do Plymouth, set default theme. I'm gonna do Control A so I could go back, do sudo, then Control E to end, and then uppercase R, and tell it which theme we want. And I'm gonna go with solar, and then go ahead and hit enter. And once you hit enter, it's gonna do all this drag cut stuff, so it could grab all the latest in your RAM and ensure that everything's set up correctly. And once this is done, we'll go ahead and reboot. But in the time being, we are gonna use a solar theme for our password. So let's go ahead and exit this by rebooting. So sudo reboot, and I'm gonna come back once this reboots. We're back at our Lemon screen, go ahead, select the first entry, and then now we should get a nice little screen to enter our password. So this is the solar screen. Enter your password so you could begin to log in. Has a little bit of animation, has the void, and now we are auto logged in. And so at this point, we've set up Plymouth, we've set up our LUKS encryption, and now we've also are good to go with auto login. And so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will probably do a couple more videos on Void. I also want to do a couple videos on Chimera Linux as well as NixOS. As always, thanks for watching. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching.